call to order tonight's meeting. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have an applicant?
We do. Good evening. Andrew Stahl on behalf of the applicant. I'm just going to hand out a few things, a binder with some information I'll be going through. I understand it's a short agenda, which is not like there's anything else going on tonight outside of the world, but
What's the cutoff, Vince? 7:55?
I will be as to the point as I can on this. So with me here tonight, like I said, I'm Andrew Stahl, I'm the attorney for the applicant. With me is Rich Gottlieb, Jen Rosenberg from the applicant, and Bill Reardon, the applicant's engineer. What's before you for consideration and for recommendation is a text amendment to your zoning ordinance. I'll give you some background, Bill. I think you're generally familiar with what's going on. Is the underlying project, the applicant owns a property at 502 West Germantown Pike, which is, I'll call the donut hole of the Plymouth Meeting Mall. That property, it consists of a 9-story office building, which has sat vacant for about 5 years. So what the applicant's really looking to do is to make beneficial use of that, I think, which is what everyone wants, as opposed to a vacant office building. So in doing that, we've been working with the township and with its consultants, and we've come up with a text amendment that benefits kind of all parties here. The text amendment that's before you adds a few things, or changes a few things. It adds a definition of high-rise apartment house. It permits the conversion of existing office buildings to mid or high-rise apartments by conditional use. There is a cap on the density, which I understand is very important to the township. And it also has a unit mix to 1 to 2 bedroom apartments. It has other provisions in there with respect to for the conditional use, making sure that you submit a traffic impact study, a fiscal impact study, and other such information. So to that point, if I can walk you through walk you through the binder that I've handed to you tonight, you'll see an overall site plan. Now, this is just, like I said, this is a text amendment. This is not a land development application. It's not a conditional use application. It's not a zoning application. It's merely just to give you a sense of, hey, this is the area that would be affected, which is specifically the shopping center district under your zoning ordinance. We do have as Exhibit 2, or I call it Tab 2, it's a blow-up of the parcel for our site, just showing what is there. 3 is a photo of the existing building. You'll see that it very much looks like an office building that has been vacant for 5 years. 4 is a sample building rendering. Again, just to reiterate, this is a text amendment for you. This is not showing what we're proposing. It's not showing what's going to be there. We will be back for conditional use, assuming this goes through. We will be back for land development, assuming that's necessary and that is part of this project. So you will have another opportunity or opportunities to review and comment on what ultimately gets put in there. The 5th is the traffic and parking information. It's a report from traffic planning and design. That would be something that would be submitted as part of this application. It's relevant to the text amendment because it would be something that would be before you and considered and appropriately considered under the new provisions of the ordinance. 6 is the fiscal information report by Babbitt and Associates. Again, something that would be relevant, considered, and appropriately considered under the text amendment. The 7th is a demographic analysis, again by Babbitt and Associates. 8 is a stormwater letter prepared by Bowler Engineering, and 9 is a traffic planning and design review letter for the projects. 10 is the ordinance amendment that's before you, and 11 is a review of the Montgomery County Planning Commission. Happy to answer any questions, though I know everyone's kind of antsy, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have substantively about this or any other topics related to what's before you tonight.
So you have no other presentation at this time?
At this time, no.
Okay.
Nothing,
Thank you. Brittany?
I don't have any questions at the moment. Thank you.
Vernon?
And neither do I. I don't have any right now.
Monica?
Could we have 5 minutes to look through this book?
Absolutely.
And Dave, if we could go back to requiring any handouts of this nature be given us 10 days in advance,
Correct.
as everyone has a day job in addition to this job?
No problem.
Thank you.
Yep.
So this will be the last time this happens.
Understood.
If it happens again, we'll continue the meeting,
Continue the meeting. Understood.
making sure you understand.
Got it.
Good.
Thank you.
We're in recess. And since you're not recorded, we'll stay recorded. Thank you.
I'm not sure.
Basically three. It's Plymouth Meeting Hall, Plymouth Square, and then the shopping center, Virginia, Germantown. That's planned on this to make sure you know that it's not shopping center, it's something different. No, it was actually their application. They proposed it. So it's their application. Yes. Yes, correct. But the staff is one that they want to pass you first and go back and forth on the final wording that I sent out last week or whatever. So you probably, you might have the originals that I might have sent out a year ago. If not, it doesn't matter. Because the most recent one was the one I sent out last week. I got you. Right now, not actually, because
We can strengthen the case.
probably,
Probably.
probably, that's more people question. I'm an attorney. I would think so.
Not gonna go there.
I'm a lowly zoning officer. Always remember.
Dave, does this have a separate tax parcel number, or is that incorporated with them all?
I believe they all have separate tax parcel numbers, if I'm not mistaken. It's like carved up to like 7 or 8 parcels.
Ours is its own tax parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at this right here. So that's the
4907.
7. This is the parcel for this one.
Yeah, 4900.
0004128. 00. Is that right? It was on this one. No. Yeah, I thought it was 8.
That's it. It's just where they put the line.
Okay.
And of course, if you have any questions as you're reviewing the materials, I'm happy to answer it.
Who's the owner of record on this? I can't find it on the county tax parcel number. It's coming up Whole Foods with that tax parcel number.
No, it's, to be correct, and it is 49.
dash 00-0412 dash 016.
Oh, give me that again. Okay, 04120?
20 dash 016.
Yeah, because this is referenced here on the planning, Montgomery County. Not the same number.
Yeah, and the owner of record is Plymouth Meeting KPG 3 LLC.
It wasn't coming, the tax parcel number on the review letter from Montgomery County isn't the same number.
Is that right?
That brings up Whole Foods. So.
Monica, I certainly don't want to rush you.
No,
If you-
I don't have any questions.
No questions?
Yep.
We're back on record.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One, you have the traffic planning thing, and it shows that there's a decrease, I guess, in traffic and all that. It seems a little counterintuitive. Is that kind of assuming that the office building would be full and functional? And
I'm sorry, you said there's a decrease?
it looks like the traffic information looks like it would be less traffic and less parking spaces needed, right?
Yeah, correct.
But it seems a little counterintuitive to me, though. I mean, is that assuming that the use of the office building would be in, basically fully functional, that every office would be occupied, and that's what you're basing it on?
So the basis of the traffic study, our traffic engineer isn't here tonight. It's a very good question about the intricacies of it. It will come before you before conditional use. It will come before you before land development, should that be the case. I don't want to, unless,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's based off of, my understanding of the studies was based off of a, fully opened, occupied building as it being
Correct.
an office building versus what we're proposing it to be.
Right. So it hasn't been that way for a long time, right?
That's correct. For about 5 years, it's been.
So I think it's going to increase the traffic ultimately than what it is now.
Right, and I mean, those are all things that we're going to address, and we'll obviously be working with the township's consultants and traffic engineer as this moves forward. This is just the first step in that process.
Yeah. Is the plan to are you going to be using the existing buildings, or are you actually going to be refurbishing, I guess, the existing structure, or is it going to be a...
The design intent for
Yeah.
the project is to remove the current facade. We're not demolishing the building, we're just
Okay.
going to take off the facade, reclad it, and use the existing structure, but take it down to the steel.
Okay. That's all right for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Tony?
I got a couple things, just as a matter of, that tax parcel with the review letter is not correct, so just so you know. Based upon that structure and the gross square footage, and what, I don't know, just the projections, okay, how many units do you think you can get out of that building?
150.
50?
And that's a key part of the ordinance is how many units is there, because it caps it. The ordinance, actually, the text amendment that we're proposing caps the
30 per acre, okay. Depending on a mid-rise, high-rise, or even a low-rise, okay.
Right, so density will be capped at 150 units in any property in the SC district, or 300 apartments total in the 300 units on any property in the SC district,
Right.
and 300 units total in the SC district.
Okay. And how about the first floor commercial area? Is there any calculations or anticipation of use of that as a commercial use, or?
It will be certain amenities. and
Because it's
that-
retail, and I think in the shopping center district, you would think you utilize that.
Yeah, you know,
Well, it's not currently.
No, not now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's been,
The intent is to keep it all residential with amenities for the residents.
supportive member.
Right.
Yes.
There's a lot of questions. I think the biggest concern, just as far as expressing, is density and impact on our community. I mean, obviously, the redevelopment of this parcel is something in the best interest of all parties, okay? Tax ratables and the flow of the community there, and that's been an eyesore for a long time. But I think not at the expense of what we've always been concerned, traffic impacts, trips and calculations, and all that would come with your development at some point. But just to express the density, that's the thing, because I've actually done we had a couple structures in our community that are, like this is 19 acres, okay, and they have 398 units. That's 20 units per acre, basically, their density here. Place 1 apartments is 357 units on 9.5 acres. So we want something that's going to be compatible and consistent with what we already have in our community, okay? We understand the hardships of the retail area, the shopping center area, and how it would benefit all people, but we don't want to abuse that at this point. So
Right.
that's our concerns. So
Thank you, sir.
that's all.
Great.
Further to what Tony was saying, I said, I think development of that property is important. My concern is the text amendment and what that does to other areas and the ability for other areas to grow and build, and the impact in the overall community is my concern. That's not a question, I'm sorry. And it doesn't really help you, it just gives you where my thought process is coming from.
You're talking about the mall itself, right?
The mall or another shopping center.
Where it would
Yeah.
apply.
Well, and we've had, I think, a proposal to build new apartments on a parking lot.
Which this text
That-
amendment would impact,
Yeah, I think that's what he's referring to. Yeah.
and other shopping centers. So I don't have questions, I just,
Okay,
I think they get a flavor for your thoughts.
yes.
of course.
And this is all very beneficial as we move forward, assuming this would be adopted. If we move forward with the conditional use and land development process, this is good.
Well, and to that point, what I'm hearing is we need to pass this to find out what's in it and to determine what the impacts are. Because those things aren't fully stated and they're not fully fleshed out, they'll be done later.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say. We're off to a very good start, I would say, and that's why we gave you that information tonight.
I appreciate that, but, what was being requested was a finer degree of information which is not available. And personally, I'm opposed to passing something to find out what's in it. That's just my opinion. I'm only one person. The issue here is, and we're going to reference Park, because that was the most recent fiasco in the township, of 398 units on 2 roads, which is extremely impactful to the entire region, to the point where police had to come in and direct traffic in certain times until things got settled, to the point where we had sinkholes where we didn't have sinkholes before, and problems were exacerbated in that region due to density. So we're mindful of that. And this is a similar parcel in that it's also fronted on 2 sides and currently does not have any residents there. I'm a little questionable about the traffic plan as presented, just because an office building, normally there's a trip in and there's a trip out. There may be a trip for lunch. And for people who do take lunch, there's people who don't. So things even out from that perspective. Once you get into residences, you still have variance. Somebody could stay in for a week and only come out on a weekend, especially now with working from home. Someone could make 10 trips because they have kids. They have to work. They have to be on site for work. They have to go to daycare. They have to pick up from daycare. They have to go and take kids to events. They could have multiple kids. So everyone does their best guess. I appreciate that. But it's not known. And you also have suggestions of a 1 and 2 bedroom, but we also don't know how many people will be in those. For that, I'll specifically cite Johnson Road, where there was a townhome that had 9 people in it, where it was not supposed to have 9 people in it. And it happens, right? You can't hold anybody accountable for that directly. Somebody misrepresented, somebody brought other people in, but it happens, and we need to be mindful of that. Since you've done some extensive reviews here, I want to know what you've looked into regarding life sciences and bringing a life sciences organization or business into that facility, where obviously the majority of space, at least half, would be lab, so it would be a higher and lesser use. Montgomery County Planning Commission is very much aware of this. We recently passed something over on Chemical in Germantown for 225,000 square feet, which was life sciences. which is a minimized use, it's a higher and better use because there's less traffic. There's still the ability for people to work from home unless they're doing wet lab or wet bench work. So I'd like to know where that study is and what was yielded with that.
That building does not work for life science. So we're doing life science downtown right now. It's a great use, and we like the use of doing it at the Curtis in Center City. The building does not lend itself to do it. You need higher ceilings, heavier floor loads, more shafts for fresh air. It's just not constructed for that type of use. There's a lot of HVAC that goes
Absolutely.
into life science.
Absolutely.
And it's a good use. And I think they even looked at it for the mall, portion of the mall, and they have more volume.
Of course.
in their support.
Of course. But to your point, the only reason it doesn't work is if the building structure remains and it's recladded. If you were to take the building down and put a different facility in, if there was somebody who was interested in that in the area, that would be viable.
I don't think so.
That would be a very significant undertaking. I can promise any applicant that.
Yes,
I don't think we could afford to do that.
Yeah.
I understand that. Well, again, it would be somebody else doing that work, depending on how it was viewed, because due to location, there are entities who may be interested in that, given life sciences in this region, and given the amount of life sciences coming into this region, specifically Montgomery County and the suburbs. I'm not referring to the city.
Well, the design needs are what doesn't, they're agnostic to location. I agree with you. I mean, we've studied this market. There happens to be my prediction of a lot of space coming on the market right now, and it's a little. People tend to run to the shiny nickel, so to speak, the shiny point sometimes. And there's a lot going on right now. It's a good space. It's a good space. But it would take a demolition of that building and a reconstruction of that building. We only own a land mass of the size. The floor plates are not ideal as well. So it's really would be tough to call that a highest and best use for that location. It's a great use. I'm not, it's reconstruction.
And I will say, if I could just build off the idea of kind of demoing that building and using what's there, and it's tab 1 is just, as I said, it just shows the layout of the mall, and you'll see in the middle, the bottom middle outline is our parcel there. The thought of going in from a design perspective and making something else there, it is a very cumbersome undertaking. So we're doing the best we can. I know we work with these folks very often, and to repurpose this building, something that's been there vacant for a long time, is the highest and best use, we believe, which is why we're proposing it, because no one wins if this building continues to sit vacant.
It's not our intent, but we are extremely concerned about traffic in the region and the potential impact.
And sir, if I could just address one of the points you had made is looking into different unit sizes. That came up in the Montgomery County Planning Commission letter. The ordinance that's before you and the thought is that we want to stick with 1 and 2 bedrooms. Again, going back to, this has been going through the township for about a year now. We've been meeting with the consultants over this. And the one big thing that we keep hearing is density, 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 which is why we're proposing, and what's before you is to cap that density. So that is why we're proposing 1 to 2 bedroom units. Now, the Montgomery County Planning Commission said look into expanding into 3, and we would respectfully decline that because, again, going back to the concern that the township has had for a while now is how can we keep this minimal.
And this is a professionally managed situation. That townhouse situation you mentioned, it just could not happen there unless we just didn't manage it. So it's not, if we did that, then the value for all the other apartments would decrease as well.
Appreciate that. Also mentioning the Montgomery County plan, I believe they reviewed the plan as presented. They also mentioned the 2040 plan, especially with the increased density that's slated in the township. However, that is slated down by the river where there are trains, additional roads, and even additional townships. There's even the ability to go across the river and to connect 320 potentially at some point if that were to come through. So there is a lot more methodology of ingress and egress and of flow of traffic and flow of personnel.
And they did recommend approval of this ordinance.
I've never known them not to recommend approval of an ordinance or approval of anything that's before them. If I'm mistaken, please bring it to my attention.
No, I'm just saying that they found it to be consistent with the comp plan.
I understand. And my statement was, I've never seen them deny anything.
Understood.
Thank you. And to a point that's already been brought up, there is already ongoing litigation within that complex. So there is also a concern about moving this forward while that is still in flux and within the courts. Dave, do you have anything?
I guess the end game is 150 apartment units in that building. My question is, you've done studies on whatever parking, traffic, stormwater runoff. How about the sanitary sewer? Have we looked into that, whether it can handle an additional 150 EDUs? I'm just curious.
We haven't yet, no.
Okay.
And just in terms of the information that's before you with respect to a text amendment, I will tell you that do this every night, probably more so than my wife would like me to. I'm very familiar with the fact that text amendments that go before municipalities, some are backed by nothing. Like we believe we're already at the 40-yard line with respect to our project and what's before you. So this is not and let me be very clear, this is not a, hey, adopt this text amendment or recommend adoption of this text amendment, and then we'll kind of start doing our homework. The homework is being done. And it's been, Dave, if I could speak, it's been through the township in terms of discussions and things like that for about a year. So we are very far along in the process. So we wouldn't be there to this point, and we wouldn't be before you tonight if we weren't confident that come conditional use approval time and come land development approval time, we could meet our burdens in showing you that this is a project and a use and a development that's not going to be something that's going to be adverse to your community.
Appreciate that.
Is there a way to achieve this without a text ordinance? Without changing the ordinance?
I think we would really, this is the best way to achieve it, I think is what you're looking at. Yeah, the use is not defined, it's not permitted, I believe. You would have to go through a whole separate process. So, this is the best way to go about it.
Okay.
Have you done an analysis in the township on other sites that the ordinance would affect?
So this ordinance, I believe, is just with respect to the SC district.
Is there any other districts within the township that would be affected by this ordinance?
I don't believe.
Do they meet the dimensional criteria that you have in here, your setbacks, the amount of acreage that's required? Are there any other SC districts within the township that meet the acreage and the dimensional criteria?
I don't believe we looked into necessarily how, but on the other, you're talking about other ST areas?
Yeah, so if somebody else, another client comes in and says, this ordinance was passed, we want to use this ordinance and go build 150 apartment units somewhere else. Have you looked at that?
Yeah.
At Ridge and Butler Pike, there's Plymouth Square Shopping Center, it could apply to that.
But this is just for existing
This is just for
buildings.
existing. this is-
Conversion
yeah.
of existing office
Right,
buildings.
office buildings.
It's very specific to if there's another vacant office building that someone wanted to use, then it would fall under the proposed text amendment that's before you.
So it doesn't affect the strip center that has, 5
Correct.
retail
So there's
spaces.
no other buildings or parcels that would be affected by this ordinance other than the one that you're proposing?
I'm not aware of any other vacant office buildings that meet all of the terms of this ordinance. Unless we look at it.
I-
So there
Not the
hasn't been an
shopping center.
analysis done, or you're just not sure?
I'm sorry.
You haven't looked at it, or you're just unaware? Like you have looked and there aren't other buildings that would meet this, or there isn't?
I'm unaware of it.
I'm not a-
But this would allow for 150 more in the
Somewhere
mall
else.
area,
Potentially.
In the mall area,
in this
SC
parcel.
district.
yeah, in the SC district, correct. Yeah.
District, sorry.
In
Other-
another building,
multiple parcels, yeah.
potentially.
Yeah, well, there's
In
9
the-
parcels, right?
Right.
Sorry,
in
I didn't
another
mean to point. Sorry.
vacant office building. But again, it caps 150 in a office building that's being converted, and a 300 in the SC district.
Which article talks about that conversion of an existing building?
If you look at, so you're referring to tab 10, and my presumption was that you received the ordinance before this, so I apologize.
We did.
It would be,
D is redevelopment, maximum number of units provision.
I'm sorry, your question was which provision talks about?
Converting an existing building.
So if you look on the second page of the ordinance, it would be the proposed revision to section 110. It says, 110 of the zoning ordinance is hereby amended to add a new section 1100 subsection Q to read as follows. Mid-rise apartments and high-rise apartments only when, 1, an existing building previously or currently used for office purposes is being converted to mid-rise apartments or high-rise apartments.
Section,
And then just to take it one step further, it says subsection 2 and is authorized as conditional use.
D, isn't it more an office building?
Correct, but it's not a 50-acre parcel.
And not-
And again, that conditional use provision is there to give the township comfort and to give you all comfort that this is not a, am I recommending something that I'm not going to get another look at?
And how tall is the building?
9 stories?
Yeah, is it 6, I couldn't tell from the plan sheet. Is it 60 feet or 120? It says existing building height.
Should be a little
100. That's what I was
Not
assuming
60.
by
Yes,
the
definitely
9
not 60.
stories, but I
When it's
wasn't.
9 stories, definitely not
12,
60.
Yeah,
14 feet of floor.
Yeah, the zoning table on the plan. Okay, less than.
What is the gross square footage that you have? The county record says 171,696.
The gross square foot, we have 174 approximately.
Question I just have, it's not a big deal. It says, but an apartment house containing 6 or more habitable stories, residential units within a high-rise to be offered for sale or rent. In other words, they could convert them to a condo at some point if they wanted to, though, right? You could sell them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just how the use
Yeah,
is.
it's some flexibility.
I'm just going to go through the board one more time, see if anybody has any additional questions, and then we'll proceed. So, Brittany, do you have anything else?
I don't believe so.
That's okay. If something comes up. Vern?
No, I don't have any.
Thank you. Monica?
what's the height of the existing building in feet?
It's 9 stories, so it's around 120 feet.
Okay, so is that why this section about when an existing building is being converted to high-rise apartments and the height of the existing building already exceeds 100 feet, is that why that is necessary?
Right, as you're
Okay.
referring to section 1101.
Right, number 2, yeah. Yep, okay. No other questions.
Thank you. Michael? Tony?
Just once again, there's a lot to apply here. I know you're not coming in for an approval, but like amenity space. I mean, if you calculate the amenity space, if you have 30 square feet per unit, and you have 300 units, you're talking about 9,000 square feet, which is not a lot of amenity space. I mean, that kind of stuff, tweaking it, okay, just to make it more open. You have what, 4.9 acres here or 5 acres on this parcel?
Give or take 5, yeah.
Okay. So I mean, and I don't know what the footprint of the building is, okay, but I think in the event when you go forward with something like this. Just to make it-
Understood.
Anything else, sir? Okay. Greg?
No, I think I understand the request.
Okay. Anything else, Dave?
I think with anything like this, with any sort of approval, whether it's going to the zoning hearing board, whether it's going in front of the planning agency, of course, something has to be done with the mall. But the understanding that when the mall was built, the infrastructure wasn't there to put in apartments. Even before it's just my personal feeling, and I'm not a voting member or anything. Before anything gets approved, I think there should be almost, I don't want to use the word a guarantee, but that the infrastructure in place will be able to handle a use that's being proposed on this property. That's just my personal feeling. Again, I'm not a voting member. Because if you approve a text amendment or something, then you're going to run into lawyers and legal stuff down the road, and with lawsuits and stuff saying, oh, this is a by right plan and stuff like that. So I just say be very careful. That's all I'm saying.
No, we appreciate that comment. I can tell you, we wouldn't be here if we didn't think that, like I said before, we had enough information and data to support that what we're proposing at this site, at this building, what we're doing here, wasn't going to be viable.
We appreciate that. At this point in time, I'd like to make a motion that at this current time, given the questions raised, given the concerns raised, given the ongoing litigation, that we not approve the text amendment as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of not approving? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, we don't have any.
Yeah, it's just done.
But these minutes will
Live on.
You want these packages back?
We are adjourned.